Newsfirst, Newsline with Rs.17.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. Now then, this evening we have a very promising guest. He's fondly known as Mr. 1990, but he's also very seriously an economist of some repute, and so we thought we'd ask him the question that's on most people's minds, and that is, of course, Sri Lanka's staggering overall debt figure, 17 trillion plus rupees, and it could actually be more because that part of that 17 trillion has been calculated when the dollar was about 202 to the rupee. Now then, of course, we talk about none other than Dr. Harsha. Very good evening to you, Dr. Harsha.
Good evening for us.
Thank you for coming here. Rushed, but nevertheless, you're here. You didn't arrive in one of them ambulances, did you?
No, not right. Yet that bad.
Now then, I know you've got your own proposal and so on, but I'd like to ask you, Sri Lanka's total debt is being calculated at approximately 17 trillion rupees plus. Like I said earlier, part of it is calculated 202 to the dollar. It's now very much more. How sustainable is this debt?
It's not. It's not sustainable.
How do we sort this out?
I mean, that's the whole point. I mean, if we went to the IMF in 2020, when I originally proposed to the then government, debt would have still been sustainable, and we would have only had to deal with the IMF, and it would have been a two-way negotiation. Now that debt is unsustainable, we have a third party, a group of people who are the creditors. So we have now a tripartite negotiation going on. So since the debt is not sustainable, we have to somehow come up with a plan to make it sustainable at some point in time. So how are we going to do that? And that is where the reform agenda becomes critical, right, so that we would have money left over to make the payments due to other people.
Does President Wickremesinghe have I think some time ago you said that you agree with his policies. So does he have a written down, documented policy?
No, not yet. What I said is the overall general direction of creating an export economy, and you see, having fiscal discipline and an independent central bank, so that over a period of time we would be able to get to a point where our debt is sustainable, and that we could really think about growth and development.
Well, what's the difference then, Dr. Harsha, between the economic policies under the Palana government and now, today?
Well, I don't really know what it is, because beyond the policy statement, we haven't seen anything as such. You see, because
isn't that rather worrying? Because 62% of our working population are daily waged, and now with the very limited amount of fuel supplies, maybe about 50% of what we really need, the economy is sort of contracted anyway, isn't it? And it's now if you take the simple thing of, let's say, the tourism, or so there's no tourism, okay, right. What about three-wheel drivers and so on? They don't have enough fuel to sustain themselves for the whole week.
Yeah, I mean, those are actually just, micro issues. We have much bigger macro issues that needed resolution. For instance, the debt issue. Once we figure out how to resolve the debt issue, and we have a game plan going forward, then we can start addressing the other issues. Now, for instance, that is why we proposed this blueprint.
This is your Dr. Harsha de Silva's proposal?
No, not really. What this is...
Has it been adopted by the SJB?
Well, what this says is, and I have made it clear in all my presentations to Parliament and outside of what this is. Well, this is a combination of many people's ideas.
Right.
I have been working on a paper for a long period of time because
Out of frustration?
Out of frustration, because I saw what was happening on your show for us long before the collapse came. We suggested that the government change its course and do various things which they didn't do. Nevertheless, we knew there was going to be a collapse at some point, so we started thinking about what do we have to do to get out of the situation when that situation arises. So there is a long thesis, but what we have here is a summary of what we think are the most critical areas the government needs to focus on. And we also included in here the work done by the National Movement for Social Justice, led by Mr. Karujaya Surya, coordinated by Professor Rohan Samarajiva, who had spoken to a bunch of different political parties, independent analysts, think tanks and so on, and come up with a common minimum program, essentially, on the economics.
Dr. Harsha, I just want to make it absolutely clear. This is a blueprint put together by you, drawing on the views and so on of many people.
That's correct.
Have you given this blueprint to the new president?
We have sent it to his secretary to be given it to him.
How long ago?
A couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And
is there any indication that he's engaged you on it?
Well, he has not spoken to me particularly on this as yet. But
what's he waiting for?
I mean, I officially presented it to Parliament on Friday of last week.
Okay.
So it's been only a few days. So hopefully he got it from there as well. But I wanted to tell you something else, Faraz, and that is when we campaigned for Mr. Dalasalaha Peruma, I chaired the economic subcommittee of the different political parties who were coming together to support him. And my objective was to agree on a common plan if Mr. Alaperuma won, which we would then implement in the short term. And this includes the views of those political parties as well.
Right.
So here you have a really rich...
An all-party kind of thing, almost.
Almost.
Yeah.
So this is a really rich document because this is not just one person's views, but it is a collection of views of many people put in the context
Dr.
of...
Harsha,
Yes.
it is actually mirroring what President Wickremesinghe said about an all-party government, that it is not the views of just one party, that it is the view of many.
This is the brilliant thing about this.
Yes, so exactly.
Yeah, that's why I'm pushing this so hard.
Yeah.
Right? And the basic understanding here, agreement here, is there is no alternative other than to work with the IMF and implement a tough reform program. Right? Now, some people are arguing that we cannot do the reforms, that is, not the right prescription for our crisis, or to get out of the crisis now, and other criticisms are there. But there hasn't been any other document. I don't know of any other document.
Yes, that is my point.
Yeah.
Week after week after week, on Newsline, we ask people who come here whether they have a documented action plan for the sort of immediate recovery of our economy. And sadly, we haven't.
So this is it. As far as I know, I have it in Sinhala, Tamil and English, and it is available in the public domain for debate and discussion, right? And we already see some people commenting on some of the things in here, but I have not seen anything else.
And thank you very much for the several questions that have already started arriving. As you know, the number is by SMS or by WhatsApp is 0772 300 305. 0772 300 305. Should be on your screen at any time now. Our guest, of course, is Dr. Harsha Silva, one of the Troika from the SJB in terms of economy, the other two being Mr. Ran Wickramatta and Mr. Kabir Hashim. Now I want to ask you this question. It's not a question that's been from the public. I'll take that in a minute. But, you know, here you have a document that is entirely led by the SJB and several others, as you've just said. So is this document, this policy, better than the policy that is put forward by Mr. Wickramasinhe, of which we don't know much about?
No, I don't know exactly the specifics. I know they are working on something with the IMF, and I know that...
You're not privy to this as parliamentarians from the main opposition?
No, we know that IMF is coming on the 24th and hopefully trying to wrap up the round of discussions.
And already the public are asking you, what is the website on which you can get this document?
We can, I mean, I put it out on my social media.
Right.
On our Twitter handle, our Instagram, our Facebook, and so on.
Okay.
But we can make it, you know, widely available. Perhaps I can ask whether Parliament could carry.
Well, if you give it to us, I'm sure that our digital team will put it out on our website as well.
Brilliant. I'll give you
www.newsfirst.lk.
So we can start a discussion on your channel. Here it is, and in all three languages.
Excellent. I'm sure that we'll assist you in the national interest, of course. So, Dr. Harsha, there are many questions. One is that, you know, it says here that some wanted the rupee, the foreign exchange rate, to be sort of driven by market forces. So 202 became around the 360 mark. The bread was at 100, it's now 200. And like that, so was the fuel. You know, it's 450 now, and so on. This is all impacting on the people, especially, I keep going on to this, about the 62% who are daily wage. What do you say to these people? You know, they're not all who have money stored in the bank, in deposit accounts or whatever. What do you say to them? Some of them can't afford the medicine. Some of them can't afford all 3 meals.
I mean, we really messed up in our economic management since, you know, I'm sorry to say, I don't want to necessarily bring in the politics in here, but since the election of Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, you see...
was he completely out of his depth, economically speaking?
I think so. And, you know, you don't expect the president to know everything about every subject. But those people who were advising him, you know, from Professor W.D. Lakshman, who was the governor of the central bank at the time, and others, should have certainly known better than this. And really, you know, now the rupee is at 360, 370, right? Can you ever imagine bringing it back to what it was, 200, 185, like Mr. Cabral used to argue in Parliament those days? It is very unlikely.
You obviously don't agree. You don't believe that's possible.
It's very unlikely that can
Here
happen.
you go. Let's take a few questions to the public, okay? Dr. Harsha, is there any truth that you'll be joining the government?
As long as there is no movement towards a all-party or a multi-party structure, the answer is no. But if we are able to somehow put together a mechanism where we can all participate in this crucial moment, I would be more than happy to play a significant role if given one.
From a Mr. Lim, watching it live in Singapore, how will people live? What support the government can? What support can the government give? What is the cost?
You see, we speak here about a strong social safety net. See, what's happening for us when you reform, and now two examples that you mentioned earlier. One is fuel prices.
Yeah.
And you said, price of everything from bread has gone up. And the other being electricity tariffs and so on. Once you make them cost reflective, suddenly, cost of living goes up by, in large amounts, right? So how are you going to ensure that the low-income folk are able to meet these increases? Okay? So the only way to do that is to ensure that there is some sort of cash transfer to the low-income people so that they can afford the bread at 200 rupees or a litre of fuel at 480 rupees.
So at least what you're saying is sort of subsidize the people who really need it most.
Yeah, so as opposed to a subsidy being given to the service provider. You see, this is what I have been articulating on your show and others also for a long period of time. The subsidy must be given to the receiver. You see, when you go in your gas guzzler to the flour road shed and fill up your 60 or 100 litres, and if the government is going to give you a 300 rupees subsidy per litre, think about how much subsidy you're going to get. 300 into 100.
Yeah.
30,000 rupees subsidy you're going to get.
On that
As
note,
as opposed to the guy who's driving the three-wheeler, he's going to get only perhaps 3,000 rupees subsidies.
Point taken. Good one. When we come back after the short break, we'll ask you whether you want to be the finance minister. We'll see you on the other side of the break after the headlines. Thank you.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Rs.17.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with Dr. Harsha de Silva, better known as Mr. 1990, but today a very important figure on the economic landscape because he appears to be the only one who has got a documented blueprint for a recovery, tough as it may be. I'm going to take this question, Dr. Harsha, from a viewer. It was reported in the Daily Mirror this morning that you, Iran and Kabir are not going to criticize the government but will focus on making proposals to push the nation through. Don't you think it's a pipe dream, as all RW seems to be interested in is harassing the very people who helped him achieve what he couldn't do alone, without actually looking for solutions to help the poor citizens of this country? Does he realize that the three of them may have shot themselves in the foot with their impatience come the next election? It is sad, as the respect people had for him and Iran is already on a downward trend.
Well, I mean, there are many, views. I mean, people are entitled to their own opinion. And what Kabir said yesterday at the press, which was highlighted in the Daily Mirror this morning, is that instead of continuously criticizing economic policy, right, that we should try and bring our own solutions, our own proposals. Because one must realize that whether it is RW or whether it is us or anyone else, it is the economic philosophy that matters, right? Are we for reform or are we against reform? Right? That is the question. And the answer to that is we are for reform. So if the president is saying, let us reform, how can we say don't reform? We are political opportunists in that case.
But if you have got a plan, you've got a blueprint,
yeah.
and so there's no point anyone joining the president without a plan.
Yes.
At least you have the plan.
Yes.
So are you going to join him?
But before I answer that, and I appreciate the viewers' question, the rest of it is that, I mean, he's harassing people, you know, and he's, you know, I don't, you know, agree with any of those, you know, high-handed issues of the president. You know, here we were only referring to the reform process. So I want to clarify that. By no means are we not going to criticize his high-handedness in dealing with those who in fact, like the viewer correctly says, brought him into office through the Aragale. So I think it's completely you know, unethical behavior on his part on that particular issue. But whether you are asking me whether I want to do what? Join
the government? Are you going to join the government irrespective of your party, or is your party going to allow you to join the government in the interests of the national interest?
No. So this is.
And do you want to be the finance minister?
No. So this is the discussion that we are having. In fact, I came from. I told you I was at a meeting with Sajid. I had to rush here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And I wish that he has a one-to-one conversation with the president, right? And try to figure out if it is at all possible where everyone can pause politics for a agreed upon period.
But
and
Dr.
then,
Harsha, I hear what you say, but honestly, are you going to be able to work with some people in this government who've said that, you know, because they burnt the houses, a single-story house must be replaced with a two-story house, and yet we still have people in this country who haven't had 1 cent paid after the destruction in 1983. Can you really work with such people?
No. So you're right. So I mean, I feel dirty. You know, if you ask me the question, should I, you know, would I go sit with these people? You know, I mean, precisely the kind of question that you're asking, I am asking, right? So, but then, what is priority right now? Now, how do we deal with this? I mean, does he need the opposition to get out of this hole, or does he not need the opposition? Does he have to bring everybody together, or does he not need to do that? In his policy statement, he said, not 5-6. Even with 5-6, like Jaya Jawardhan had, I can't do it by myself. That everyone has to now, you see, come together to deal with this crisis. So therefore, we have to find a way. We have to find a way.
What does your leader say?
Yeah, so I mean, I am telling him, have a discussion. Right? Have a discussion. Sit with him, the two of them, right? Close the door for an hour, 2 hours, I don't care, and figure out how we can come up with a mechanism so that we will not be blamed later on by our children, the generation who's really going to suffer if we don't fix this. We are robbing their future. We are robbing their future, right? And that is not fair, right? So there is a responsibility on the part of today's politicians to figure out a way.
Here's a wonderful question. I must take it. It's not a question. It's more like a statement.
Yeah.
We have a man who has no mandate. The philosophy of politics is simple. A social contract. Without one, there is no politics, no legitimacy. The way is simple, an election.
So this is what I'm saying, that it has to have a time period. I just mentioned it a little while ago, right? Whether it is 6 months or 9 months or 12 months or whatever it is, that you agree on a horizon. And for this period of time, we will work together. After that, we go our separate ways and try to obtain a mandate to establish a new government.
You're talking about a man who held on to the leadership of the United Nations Party for so long.
No, Faraz. Now here there are two issues. One is whether the appointment of Ranil Wickremesinghe is legitimate. It is, because it is within the
constitutionally legitimate, but morally they have lost that mandate.
So that is my
point. And therefore the time is now to change now.
No, you have to work within the constitution of Faraz. We cannot chase him away. You cannot do that. The constitution, that is the supreme law of the country.
So basically he's a puppet of the SLPP.
I mean, now he's the boss. He need not be the puppet of anyone. That is what I'm saying. He can, under the current constitution, he has the power to dismiss parliament by March of next year. And why can't he do that? He can certainly do that. You see, for us, my point is, if the president really wants, right, he can say, come everyone, let's work together till March 2023, and we'll call for a new mandate, go out to the people and let them elect whoever they wish to.
From Singapore again, another one here. It says here that when the people can't afford to eat, as it's beginning now, they will curse everyone, and God will punish these people, including you.
Yeah, that is precisely what I said. Didn't I say that? I said our future generations will curse us, right? I said it is our responsibility. I just said it. I agree with the gentleman or lady, whoever sent that question. So that is why I'm saying let us look at solutions that are non-traditional. Let us look outside the box. You can always, if there is a will, there is a way for us, right? You don't have to be restricted within a box that you create for yourself, right? The constitution, the law, is all made in parliament, right? I mean, in the legislature you can change the constitution. Mahinda Rajapaksa changed the constitution, Gotabaya Rajapaksa changed the constitution in a matter of days, right? So if you want to really change the constitution to deal with this crisis that we have, what we are facing now, it is always possible to change the constitution.
The operative word is now. Change must be made now.
I mean, like I said, if the Prime Minister, if the President wants to, why can't he? But I have to say that he is obligated to the 134 port tour guys who got him in through the parliamentary vote to become president.
134.
134. But now he's the president. Right? I mean, it doesn't mean that he has to act purely to satisfy the interests of the 134.
And 134, unfortunately, but thank you very much, Dr. Harsha Silva, for your presence here. The 134 bus, by the way, still serves a place called Angoda. It's now time for the primetime news. Take care and God bless you all.